I was at the Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Discover Las Vegas conference just a few weeks ago, and I'm a little late getting this podcast done, but it's the story of my life. It seems like I've been going a lot lately. But why would an old-time operations technology person, controls and automation person, written about this for a long time, and here I am the last few years hanging out with the IT people, the should I say hated IT people? Well, they shouldn't be. But IT conferences are interesting, and in this age of digitalization and digitization and all those other ization things, IT is pretty much where it's happening right now. Hi, this is Gary. This is podcast number 192 in my long-running series that goes back about 10 years, actually. You can find it on Apple Podcasts and Overcast and other podcatch places. This podcast is brought to you by Ignition from Inductive Automation. You can get your SCADA and visualization and manufacturing IoT needs done through their unique, at this time, selling proposition. Many people have told me that they love the product and they especially like the pricing. So go try it out. Ignition 8 has just been released, so try it out, check it out at inductiveautomation.com. Also, another sponsor is the upcoming Innovation Summit by Schneider Electric, and it's the Foxborough Triconics part of Schneider Electric coming up. You can find that at schneiderelectric.com and check out both of these sites on banner ads on my website, themanufacturingconnection.com. And you can find this podcast, if you just happen to stumble across it, at automation.libsyn.com, or you can, like I say, find it on Apple Podcasts or wherever you find that, or just Google Gary Minchell. I am the only one. So let's talk about IT, OT, and why I go to IT conferences. And especially in this conversation, I just want to talk about Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, or HPE, because that's just where I was. I also go to other IT conferences, and we'll talk about them in the next podcast, actually. Several things coming up. In the industry I've covered for a long time as a magazine editor, which I, of course, no longer am. I was covering instrumentation, controls, some manufacturing software, and I was covering, what we called automation. So at Automation World magazine that I helped found a long time ago now, we talked about how automation is controls plus information, actually. And we added a lot of things to our control platforms, our PLCs, the process control, that were useful for getting information or data and sending it off somewhere. But through, from 2003 when we founded the magazine through 2013 when I quit, sending information off somewhere was somewhat vague. And we were still talking about the stupid silos of IT and OT, and we were talking about IT-OT convergence, which is, I think, a crappy word, and we should just do away with that. Recently, I've heard somebody talk about IT-OT collaboration. That's also, you should just be, a bunch of people doing your jobs and trying to make your plant more efficient and profitable and a better place to work. It's my rant for the time. But we needed much more, and so along comes a concept called Internet of Things. GE called things the Industrial Internet, and then we called it the Industrial Internet of Things. And what's in a term? All it means is, oh gee, what we've been doing for a long time, we connect a whole lot of sensors together. But what's happening now, or happened the last few years now with IoT, is most of the devices are smart. They're digital for the most part, or they can be converted analog to digital signals to get into the network. We're communicating IP, that's Internet Protocol, and we're communicating basically over standard networks like Ethernet, Wi-Fi, and the like. Perhaps we use LTE to go on a broadband on a longer basis. So, the networking improved. We're using IP a lot. Databases got much better. We had historians, and historians were okay. But then we get MongoDB, and we get a whole lot of other things, NoSQL, and a number of other things. And database thinking got really interesting because we had to start in other industries handling large amounts of data. Wait a minute, the analysts tell us that manufacturing is going to serve up much more data than everything else combined. And here we are in manufacturing. So that comes along. So now we need, actually, now we're starting to talk IT stuff, networking, servers, databases, analytics. Analytics come from companies, well, most of them, but like Microsoft has analytics, and a lot of other big companies do predictive analytics based on machine learning and all these fancy terms that we hear about. This is IT stuff. So going to Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, they have really robust compute platforms that could be data farms, servers, other sorts of things like that. They're really powerful, just amazing. They have for example, Aruba is part of HPE, and Aruba has really robust Wi-Fi access points and gateways and networking. And so I go to an IT conference, I can learn an awful lot about that. We sat in a conference session. I'm in the influencer section, and we have roundtables, and they bring various executives and technologists in to talk with us and actually listen to us as we talk back and forth, have a conversation. And so they brought in the people in charge of 5G technology within HPE, and we had a chat about 5G. Not here yet, despite the advertising, but I think 5G holds a lot of promise, but I think we're going to have to wait a while to see what really happens with 5G. I'm hearing all kinds of weird stuff, and there are ex-FCC board members, commissioners speaking out, and right now I don't know who to believe, and probably neither should you, but it's going to come along. It's really interesting, and it'll eventually get consolidated. And we'll all be buying Huawei. Wait a minute, President Trump, I didn't say that. So networking is part of this whole thing, and networking is advancing by leaps and bounds. I talked about digitalization. Everything is turned into digitization, so we're digitizing, our drawings, our processes. Security vision is a big thing, and so security is big, and digitizing that, bringing it into the network, and we do all kinds of analytics on that. I have talked about the refinery in Houston. It's a chemical refinery owned by Texmark, and they use vision not in the machine vision sense that I used to use it for quality inspection and parts presence and that sort of stuff, but they usually actually use it to detect critters coming in when they have to open the gate to let a railroad car come in, and so everything is open to the outside and coyotes can wander in. Not good to have a coyote on your refinery property, so they get an alert, or maybe just checking to see if we have people in that area just in case, whatever. Very, very interesting things like that. So Edge has been big, so I got into these IT companies originally through Edge devices that they were making, bringing their compute platforms into smaller, robust packaging, multiple port devices that actually I've seen some in use cases on offshore oil platforms, for example. So when you think IT and carpets and dusty closets in the administrative office, not so much. They can go on the factory floor, they can go on an offshore oil rig. We can take the Edge. So these are things that they call the Edge, that are a computing device that will serve as a database, a data collector, some analytics and some compute on there, and then sending stuff up to the cloud eventually, and maybe limiting our bandwidth by only sending what we need to send, and not just a constant stream of all these gigabits and zettabytes and whatever of data. IT companies are strong, well, so they say, but they have strong security departments. They work very hard on that. OT companies did some security, and we've had a little bit here and there, maybe a little device that's like a little gateway or a firewall device maybe between your PLC and the network or something like that. But in these days of hacking and getting into critical infrastructure, bringing in the security advice from IT companies and IT professionals only makes sense. So that's another reason for me to hang out at IT conferences, and HPE has robust security within their portfolio. And just kind of checking my list out here, I just started a long list, and time to start wrapping it up, so I try not to be too awful long. I do these not as interviews. Some of my interviews have been popular. Mostly it's just thoughts. You can get conversation interviews all over the place, and they could be interesting like a talk show. However, I just try to give you a few thoughts, and I want to spur your thinking and perhaps your creativity. So some other things, the IT companies also are strong more or less. Some are more strong, some are less strong, but they're very strong in things like open source and donating lines of code to open source projects and things like that. Open source is a really key thing, and they're really all working now on open APIs, having to put an API in everything, and it's what Doug Kaye, in a book he wrote quite a few years ago now called Loosely Coupled. We are loosely coupling, and we're using APIs to connect this to that, to this to that, and we're building ecosystems, and HPE, like other IT companies, are looking for partners to build an open ecosystem. All these things happening with the IT part of the world, which only hooks up to OT. This leaves, by the way, one of the problems I've worked in the past with organizations trying to build up whole platforms and everything based on ISO and IEC standards. And a problem that comes up, it's kind of like ISA, for example, has standards that become IEC standards and NIST standards eventually. And so there's one that's pretty cool. It's called ISA 95, and it defines a whole lot of terminology and relationships within manufacturing execution layer. And the first response when they were putting it all together from CTOs and VPs of engineering and so on in the technology supplier community was, don't force us to have to meet a standard ISA 95. Just let us connect to it somehow, and not have to make our product just like everybody else's product, which meets ISA 95. That's just an example, and pick your poison. And so basing things on standards is a little more difficult. More easy is, I don't care what you put in your process control box. I don't care what you put in your MES box. I care that I can connect in and I can connect out. And so if I can fit in your PLC or your process control in as one of those edge devices into my bigger IoT and digitalization networks, then I can be much happier. That part is open, how you program it in the guts. So the old open people wanted to make an open PLC. They just like a generic. And that's not going to work for a lot of reasons, and it didn't, and they're gone. And but open APIs, open connections, you do your thing, but there's stuff you got inside that thing that I want to be able to connect to so I can do analysis at the next level. I can add it as part of my supply chain analysis or my quality analysis or my supplier evaluation analysis or all kinds of things I need to do. And even for predictive maintenance, condition-based maintenance, maybe someday prescriptive maintenance where we could tell the thing how to fix itself. That's going to be cool when that happens. So anyway, IT and OT, we keep talking about it. Just like I wrote on a friend's LinkedIn post, I was just at a plant not too long ago, and the IT manager and the what would be called the OT manager had offices side by side. They talked every day. That's how you get things done. You don't worry about, you don't do fancy words, you do anything else. You just have the people work together. So that's really competent general management, and that's really what it's all about. Leadership, management, getting people to work together. and then we bring the best of everything together for the good of the plant and the people and the customers and the suppliers. So this is Gary Mitchell wrapping up podcast number 192, talking about why an OT guy goes to IT conferences, more or less, and more. And this podcast is brought to you, as always, by Inductive Automation and their Ignition 8 platform, or our product, which is available now. You can check it out at inductiveautomation.com. And also reminding you to check out Schneider Electric and its Innovation Summit coming up in a couple of months. And check out the go to schneiderelectric.com, and you can check out the links on my website, themanufacturingconnection.com. Thank you for listening. Send your comments. Appreciate them. Have a good day.